Hey, this is Hatim Mansouri. I'm a junior from the Black Student Union. Welcome to MYTV.
You're watching MYTV. It's for you to see. Tune in every week. Let's make history. You're watching MYTV. You're watching MYTV. You're watching
Hey Mission, welcome to 2015. This is our new season of MYTV. Today we will be talking about a few important topics that have been happening over the past few months or weeks. Of course, most of you have heard of the attack in France on the magazine called Charlie Hebdo. My question to you is, are we either in the age of censorship or the age of freedom of speech?
We will also talk about Black Lives Matters.
As most of you may know, a horrible thing happened in France. 17 people were shot and killed. 12 of them worked for the magazine Charlie Hebdo. On Sunday, an estimated 3.7 million people took to the streets to show solidarity, with the victims included 1.5 million people in Paris. The front cover of Wednesday's edition of Charlie Hebdo is a cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad, shedding a tear and holding a sign reading, "Jesus Charlie." The headline says, "All is forgiven." Do you think Charlie Hebdo is taking it too far? Do you find Wednesday's cover offensive?
Did you think it was a good choice to put the Prophet Muhammad on the magazine cover?
I always think it's a bad choice to disrespect people. And for anyone who's studied Islam, you know that Muslims consider it greatly disrespectful to put images of the Prophet anywhere or to create icons. And so they knew what they were doing when they disrespected the great number of Muslims in the world, and they did it anyway. So I consider it an aggressive act.
I don't know if it's a good choice, but it's freedom of speech, therefore everyone should be entitled to do what they feel is correct.
What happened was absolutely tragic. It's very horrifying and very scary. What happened is also very sad, because I feel like a lot of the families are in grief.
I feel like people just look at what the the really tiny amount of percentage that extremists are, just like any other religion has. And they put that what the few is and put that image around what all of Islam is. It seems like nowadays that there's a lot of tension between Muslims and everybody else. The Americans and people around the world have this idea that Muslims just want to kill. It's a religion of hate. I heard some hate comments, all over social media and stuff. They're saying, well, Islam is just it's Satan's, religion, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Because throughout my whole life, Islam has actually done more good than any type of bad. There's no bad at all, because Islam, it teaches you respect, it teaches you peace and love.
I don't have a gun. Stop shooting. Michael Brown, 18.
Why did you shot me? Kendrick, Day, 19. You shot me! Oscar Grant, 22. I love you too. Sean Bell, 23.
Get ready!
the Black Lives Matter is a movement, and we're trying to transition it to a culture, because when you have a movement, it's gonna stop at some point, right? So when something's moving, you're gonna have to stop. So if it's a culture, it's always gonna be a long-lasting. It's gonna be existent for eternity, right? So the Black Lives Matter is basically we trying to have equal rights in the system, because right now it's you see it's black and brown people. They just get judged by the color of their skin, and they just don't have the same privileges as for say white people, and we're trying to bring enlightenment and awareness to this issue, because it's just not right to have just because of the color of skin. You can't control it. You're born into it. Our event, the BSU hosted Mike Brown Sr., Cephas Johnson, a minister from the Nation of Islam, and Reverend Amos C. Brown. And it was pretty cool to have their insight, but it was cooler to have it student-led.
Why are you following me? Trayvon Martin, 17.
Alex Nieto, 28.
Andy Lopez, 13.
We're the 43 through this music. Please find us.
You needn't be afraid of me, baby. MSL, 14.
But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time.
I think the world would be a really terrible place if we never stood up for our rights, because someone once told me that we only have as many rights as we fight for. And we've come so far as a people over the course of centuries, and it took centuries of fighting to get to where we are. And we have to remember every day that if we stop fighting for them, or if we just give up and say, that's it, we got our cell phones and iPhones, that's good, I don't need any more civil rights, and we forget about them, then they're at risk of being lost again.
We would still be back in slavery if we didn't stand up for civil rights, okay? This is what Martin Luther King stood for, civil rights. That's probably what this is based on, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think we are living the dream Martin Luther King once had for us?
I believe we're far into it, but I don't believe that it's fulfilled yet, okay?
I think we are in some ways, and I think we're not in other ways. I think that, Dr. King often gets represented as talking about racial unity, but he was so much more than that. One of the things he talks about that we overlook in this country is economic justice and economic equity. And so we are not anywhere near equal as far as the way that the wealth is distributed in this country. So I think until we can do that, and until we can really work on not acting like racism doesn't exist and sweeping it under the rug, I don't think we're going to achieve his dream. But I think we can. We just have to fight for it.
Thanks for watching. See you soon.